we are going to start. It's 5 minutes after 1, so we're a little bit behind. And I would like to make sure that Dale and Sharon have time to present what they want to present. A little pre-convention information kind of beforehand, things that have happened. I imagine many of you have probably received the surveys that Dale has sent out. If you haven't, I'm sure he's got a system to make sure that you get those very soon. What I do want to clarify is this is essentially if you will, a fact-finding, information-gathering system for CALLERLAB. And with myself, I'm Mike Hogan. I'm the chairman of the marketing committee. And being chairman of the marketing committee, many of the things that Dale has sent out and is talking about, which I'll let him, of course, go through his plans, have a lot of marketing elements that are tied into them. I thought a lot about the idea of a lesson system, which they're going to talk about fairly extensively here. This is not a situation where we as CALLERLAB are presenting this material as though we have already endorsed any of this. This is really a fact-finding mission for us. But what I do know is the more creative ideas, the more things that we can do. Even if you pick up something out of this session and take it home with you and just incorporate a piece of it and it helps you, then it was worth your time to be in here. I don't know where this is going to go. I have seen little bits and pieces of the stuff that they have been working on. So I'm kind of like you. I'm pretty much going to be a good host and introduce our folks here and let them present their material and take questions from you, and maybe I'll have a few questions to throw at them as well. So I can tell you I do not know a great deal about it. I'll introduce Dale first. This is Dale Bennett. Nice to have you here. Dale is from Cincinnati, Ohio. He is not a caller. He is a dancer. You've been dancing 2-3 years? Longer than that. Last May from Plus. Okay, so fairly new dancer, has some marketing background, and so at any rate, a lot of this I think is Dale's brainchild. Pretty interesting stuff. Sharon Murphy, sitting immediately to my left, is a caller. She's also from Cincinnati, Ohio. She's been calling for 40 years, so you started young, and so. And so she is essentially kind of in the beta test element with you, using this system, so she can speak to how as a caller she's using the system. And then we can just pepper them with questions when they're done. So, Dale, you'll start, I'm guessing. So everybody give a nice welcome to Dale Bennett. Yes, this is a recorded session, so if you have questions, we do want you to talk on the microphone.
I probably do better standing up. May I correct you on one thing? Sharon has been calling maybe a little longer than what she said. Sharon actually started calling with animals. Well, so there was 2 orangutans, there was 2 monkeys, 2 gorillas, and 2 chimpanzees. And as soon as Noah shut the door, she took off with the music. So she goes way back. You blew the line, Sharon. She didn't even know that I was going to do the ARC thing. I've been told that sometimes speakers, if they're self-deprecating, it helps a little bit. So I'm going to start out with a joke that's a little self-deprecating. Do you know what I have in common with anorexics? You laughed out loud. That was cold. What do I have in common with anorexics? We think we're fat. Some of you are qualified to tell that joke. Others, everybody that's qualified to tell that joke, stand up. That's all right. That's right. What I have some things in common with you. I am not a caller. And the credibility thing, and the reason I got Sharon off the ARC to do this is I needed someone who's been around. And also, we want to mention Jim Cox, who has also contributed significantly. Jim's been calling over 20 years. The 2 of them are good buddies, and so the 3 of us put our 2 heads together, and we've come up with a system that we think is going to be very significant for square dancing. Let me tell you just a little bit about my story. I started taking square dancing lessons a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now. And the second week, the leader of our square dance club said, okay, next week, by the way, is the last week that you can invite students to come to class. Now, I knew a little bit about square dancing, that it was in decline because my wife square danced back in the 70s, blah, blah, blah. Instantly, with my little quirky analytical brain that I've got, I instantly knew why square dancing is going down the tubes. And that's because of the system, not because of the calls or the definitions or the length of the calls even, in my opinion, or the callers or CALLERLAB or the ACA or anything else, or the culture even. The culprit in my mind instantly became the short little 5 to 6 weeks that we get to toot our horns about the greatest activity on the planet Earth. I looked at this activity and I said, why isn't everybody doing this? This is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then when I found out in the third week, no more new students get to come in, what's that all about? And so my little brain said, I understand why it's going down the tubes. For the next 6 weeks, I went home every night after class and laid in bed thinking, how can I fix this? See, what we do have in common is we like to fix things. You like to fix broken squares or squares that are half out or whatever, however you guys say that. I like to fix marketing things. That's actually my background, is sales and marketing. From a marketing standpoint, square dancing is an absolute disaster. Because of this 5 to 6 weeks limitation, let me ask you this question. If I came to you and I said, I'd like to borrow $100,000 from you, I want you to actually invest it in my company. By the way, we only get to advertise, promote our product 5 to 6 weeks out of the year. The other 40-some weeks out of the year, we can't even talk to new customers. We can't toot our horn. Would you invest $100,000 in a company that can only recruit or sell or advertise 5 to 6 weeks out of the year? There's not a chance. That's got doomsday written all over it. And yet, we think somehow that square dancing can survive. Here's what we are, folks. We're a bunch of old fogies who are wearing kind of funny-looking clothes that have a very limited period of time to go tell totally uninterested people, okay, about an activity to commit once a week for the next 6 to 9 months, an activity that they hated back when they were in junior high school. That's a marketing disaster. So what I decided, and also my sociological hat or brain kicked in after about 5 or 6 weeks. I looked around and all my angels were about to be real angels, okay? They were all old enough to be great-grandmothers. And then I got to thinking, what's going to happen when these great-grandmothers begin to dance with a big collar in the sky? Who's going to replace them? And so I went home and I laid in bed at night and I thought, how can I fix this? Because I like to fix things. It took me a long time with a lot of opposition. Because I was a new caller in my grand city, I got a lot of opposition. I was breaking down squares, and people heard that I was thinking about starting a square dance school to teach people how to square dance. I never presented myself as a teacher of students. Although we are the nest, we do hatch square dancers. I went, between the two of them, they've got over 60 years of calling experience, and we sat down and we figured out a system. You've heard the expression, if you continue to do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got, right? How many of you believe that in here? If you continue to do what you've always done, you continue to get what you've always got. It's insanity. It is absolutely insanity, and yet 80% of the people back at your home is committed to doing exactly that. If you went back and told them, you know what, there's this crazy guy that came up with this crazy new system, and we ought to do it, and so forth, they're going to say, we've never done it that way before. Or we tried that. We tried something like that. It sounds pretty familiar, and it didn't work. Does anybody know anybody like that in the square dance community? Just about 90% of them. We've got the enthusiastic crowd here today. You go back and try to convince your club to do this, and they're going to look at you like you got 3 or 4 eyes. So here's what we're not going to do. We're not going to throw this out to just anybody and everybody. We're really not. I have 141 people that answered our survey that said we would like to beta test your curriculum at our club. For one thing, I think that's a little dangerous because I don't want people that don't know what they're doing to try it, because I don't want bad reports. Oh, we tried that Nest curriculum thing and it kind of stinked. And so we're going to pick out about 10 or 15 clubs across America that have the right that have the right facilities and the right kind of angels and the right kind of callers that will take this thing, and then we're going to collect data and give you some real numbers. Do you have a question? No, just stretching. Okay, that's cool. Are there any questions so far? Let me tell you one thing. I don't want this to become a debating match between me and you, because there are some people in the crowd today that are very skeptical about what we're doing, and there's just I don't have time to create a debate. Nah, Santa Claus over there. I don't have time to make this a debating session because we have too much material to cover. The next thing I want to do is I want you to experience what we do at the Nest on a Wednesday night. And I need group participation to do this. And this is kind of where I'm going to turn it over to Sharon a little bit. I would like and I just need you to hop up. I would like for 8 people, preferably 4 men and 4 women, to go over there. Okay, just go over there. I'd like for 4 other people to stand right here in front of Mike. 4 more. Come on. I need 3 or 4 of these groups, okay? Because we're going to demonstrate how we do this thing. Yeah, I want full square over there. I need my 8 people over there. I need 4 there, 4 here, 4 there. Come on, guys. Help me out here. It's going to drag on. Come on. We're not going to hurt. Okay. It's only going to last about 2 or 3 minutes.
So we only need 2 couples here, right?
Right. We need 2 couples here.
That's a full square. Everybody else is 2 couple groups.
Okay,
these 2 couples, 2 more couples.
And then I want 1 couple to stand right there in the middle of the floor where Ken's at. Yes, right. You stay right there. Just 1 couple right there.
I need 2 couples here.
Sounds like a dance. We need 2 couples back in the back. Come on, women. Just jump up here. Thank you. I appreciate your collaboration. Yeah, just make 2 couples. This is not rocket science. Yeah, I'm going to. I'm going to do something with them. Yes. Now I need, we're going to use all the audience. I need 5 more people to be readers, okay? So if you know how to read, come on up. And I need 1, 2, I need 4. I need 4. I need a person right here. I need a person right here. And I need a person right over there. And all you're going to do is read. If you don't come, I'm going to close the class down. Sharon's going to give you a book. Why don't you guys step on around there a little bit? Yeah, step on around there. You guys step down a little further down that way. Step down that way a little bit further. And I want this reader, lady in the lime, I want you to face exactly the way you're facing. I want a reader right here, and I want you facing that direction.
I got a reader here.
Oh, you got a reader? Okay. I want him to come over here and stand facing that direction. Okay. In other words, back to this reader.
I think he just fired you, but I'm not sure. You don't need Chuck now, then.
Oh, I'm sorry. Chuck, you go out there in the middle and you're going to read to Ken and oh, Sharon's going to do the reading over there. Okay, Sharon, have you assigned them the numbers? Here, assign them the numbers.
They know. They have their numbers. So we are located right now in a mall that
is vacant pretty much of what it's supposed to have. And so we just kind of spread out. But no matter how quiet I am, he tells me to be quieter all the time because I do the full square set. But this is what's happening all at the same time. We do it by mini squares, by two couples. If the reading letter is in red, then that's a new call. You have to instruct it. Now, how many dancers are competent enough to instruct it in a way that makes sense? Not a whole lot. Even great dancers. There's a lot of callers that really shouldn't be instructing classes. But anyway, we won't go on that route here. So what we have now done is make videos, okay, of all of the calls being taught. So let's say the reader reads a little line and I got to teach spin the top. Oh, man, somebody does something in the middle. I don't know. Well, they can just go and punch in on the video, spin the top. They'll watch it together, the reader and the dancers that are learning it, and then they'll try that sequence again. The sequences are short. As they get on into the plus, like where Mike is, they get longer because I'm trying to keep reviewing, the things that have gone through. And then it goes, you're home. You do tell them, you're number 1, you're number 3. So in your couples, readers, designate who's 1 and who's 3, just in case one of the sequences come up that way. Because they won't work if you haven't told them that ahead of time. But this is all happening at once. Those people just came tonight. Those people have been coming for, I don't know, a month.
That couple there just came tonight.
Yeah.
Brand new.
They're brand new, and they're pretty hopeless, Chuck, from what I'm looking at there. Do it all the best you can. But and these are in the plus level. And think about this. You have a hip replacement dancer, okay? How many months are they out? They come back. If they're in class, they've missed that whole time. So all you can say, at least in our area, is see you next September. They've made it to plus, They've made it to mainstream. Heck, they've made it 5 weeks. They're interested. You don't want to lose them. So if they get done with the hip replacement, they've done their therapy, this is a great activity to re-enter, and they can do it at their own pace. Maybe I have a guy that had a hip replacement. If he dances more than 5 minutes, he's down. Okay, he can't tolerate it. But it doesn't matter in mini squares as long as we got somebody to put in for him, right? Because he can just keep going and keep going. These are numbered from 1 to 16. The numbers on the front of the book are wrong, but 1678. And we write down at the end of the evening, okay, she got this group got to number 312. This group got to 1,047. And so let's say they missed 2 weeks. They come back. I can look and say, you were at 1,047. Let's back you up, a few sequences. And if it's not working, very easily the reader says, let's back up some more, right? Because you can. But you've got in the full squares, am I allowed to talk about the sticks?
Let's experience this and get them seated back down. Okay. So go ahead and call that.
Okay, but this is all happening at the same time. Okay, now we're a little bit more condensed than usual. We do not use music in the mini squares. We hope to maybe adapt that as we go along. This is a work in progress. We've been tweaking it, okay? The full square, when you come to the full square, I'm going to teach you full square calls, and I'm going to use the things you've learned in the mini squares to work it in a full square because it looks a lot different when you got double the people.
So you're doing individual so you're doing individual tracking of the students every week, and then that's how and what's the mechanism where they figure out what square they should get in? Just the mechanics of squaring up as usual.
Yes. We start them at the basic level, and they just race through basic. That's fine. It's a confidence builder. We pretty much do. Now, if somebody comes in and they say, we are a plus dancer, I take them back toward the end of mainstream. I see if they can do a Dixie style to the ocean wave, really. And when they can't, then we back up some more. Okay? Yeah, Mike?
So if I'm reading you right, what you're saying is that when people come in, Bill Boyd comes in and you say, well, Bill's been through number 1,262. And so you're able to put Bill with 3 other dancers that are in that same area.
That same area, right.
So when they come in, and if you've never seen them before, they're at 0, like this couple that we have over here. So you put them in their own little one couple thing and put a caller, dancer,
Right.
somebody
Now,
to instruct them.
sometimes if they tell us they're in a club, then we don't put them at 0.
Sure.
We take them back and test it. But if we test it for just a few minutes, we're going to know that's too far back or too far ahead.
Okay. But I'm Mike Hogan, by the way. Do tell us, ask on the microphone and give us your name so we know who you are and where you're from.
We had a question. When do they dance with a full square?
Okay. You dance the very first night in a full square. Nobody leaves without having a full square. The one of the negatives of the nest is the fun level, and he'll address that. Music's great, right? Isn't that what we energize them with? And you're not using hardly any music. People that are in both traditional and the nest say, oh, we like the traditional better. I do too, okay? But it's not working for us. It's not working in a lot of ways for us. Even if you had one nest in every area, which that maybe can't be, that'd be wonderful because you could feed these people into it, get them right out into your club or your classes, which is what we're wanting to do. So I got to do this before Dale takes my mic away.
I am going to take your mic away because I don't want you to have the mic and override. So go ahead. All right. On 3, I want everybody to start reading, okay? 1, 2, 3. Okay. I just simply wanted to demonstrate and illustrate how the concept works. You are dancing closer together than what you would in your facility, okay? But you can see, even in this small cramped quarters, you still can have a full square, 3 mini squares, a new person coming in, so it's very possible to do. There are things like headsets that we can do, etc., so she can have some music, but it's beyond the scope of this. So everybody, thank you, readers. Okay, we have a question here. Introduce yourself, Ken.
Ken Britton from Montgomery, Alabama. All right, what I don't understand is where does the teaching take place? Because the reader, we all know how to dance. The reader read something, we did it, but I didn't understand where the teaching takes place.
Yes. Sharon, I'm going to let you to address that. He wants to know, a lot of what we do is for muscle memory, but they have to know what they're doing first, Ken. I totally understand that. And so everyone is taught either live by the caller or through the videos, okay? Or, thirdly, I can teach somebody how to do-se-do. And by the way, this experience back here with Ken and whoever you were with, Ken, that wasn't really real because they didn't know how to do any of that stuff. They had to know exact pass right shoulders, pass back left, blah, blah. Oh, okay, well, that's good. He knew to do that with you, okay? Guys, it works. Now, there are 2 disadvantages to the nest. There's every system, because of the complexity of square dancing, every system, I don't care whether it's multi-cycle, blast, ABC, traditional, or the nest, they all have problems. The nest also has problems. We've identified 2 of them. Number 1, you just experienced one, and that is noise going on at the same time. But you literally can be 10 feet away from another mini square that's behind you. If you're facing back to back, it is not a problem. It is simply not a problem. The second problem that there is with the nest is that it's not quite as fun with some people. If it were as fun to dance with 4 people, that would be the rave, right? But it's not. It's simply not. But let me say something to you guys. We've either got to find a system that can restore square dancing back to its heyday and start those numbers to come back up, or 30 years from now, how many clubs are going to be in your area? I asked Sharon that. She said, well, I won't be around 20 years from now. I said, just speculate. There's 13 functioning clubs in Cincinnati. In 20 years, as things going right now, how many clubs do you think there will be in Cincinnati? She said 3. Ken has a question.
Ken Jordan from Virginia Beach. Dale's talking about it's not as much fun. The thing you have to remember is the brand new person that you're bringing into this activity doesn't know the difference. They've never been in a full square. They've never been in a hall that has 15 squares in it and live music going. So when you start them as 2 people like Del and I did, we don't know any different. We've never experienced that quote-unquote fun. So just don't let on. Your dancers are the ones that aren't having fun, quote unquote, but remember, you're marketing to the new dancer who doesn't know the difference. So keep that in mind.
Okay, did you have a question? Yes, we have two back here. Let me run. I don't run very well. I'll go with Mike first.
Mike Callahan from New York. Isn't part of teaching dancing, though, teaching people to move to the music? I mean, how can you do that, you know?
Yeah. We teach them to move to the music when they get into the full square experience. Sharon hardly does. Well, I've gone through lessons twice, and when the teaches were going on and when the walkthroughs were going on, was there music? No. But then they turn the music on, and that's kind of what we do. We turn the music on when they're in a full square so they can experience that and learn to dance to the beat of the music. You got another question here, Chuck.
Okay, I understand the concept, but I'm one caller. How do I deal with 7 groups?
That's another flaw in the system. You need really good angels who can show people, here's how you step to an ocean wave, so you don't have to say to the caller, come over here. We typically have 2 callers, okay, in our setting, and one caller is dealing with the full square environment where the other caller is kind of roving. Or we have 2 challenge dancers, okay, or 2 challenge couples that frequent us, and they're very capable of explaining how to do certain things. Do you think that, answer this question in your mind, do you think that a dancer who's graduated from Plus can teach a person another couple how to promenade? Okay, it's called asset allocation, guys. A caller doesn't have to do everything. You're special. You're super special. I have no clue how you do what you do, but I can teach somebody how to promenade and hold the hands in the right position. Okay, I want to go through. Yes, this is Bill.
Yeah, this is Bill Boyd. The question I have is, if we're using dancers, I would say that 95% of the dancers that I know how to dance. They don't know the definition of the call. And when you teach a call, there's a good idea to tell them the definition and walk them through it. You can teach them the definition, talk them through the definition, but if you ask that same dancer to somebody say, okay, how do you spin the top? 90% of them will not say it's the outside 2 dancers that start, or the end dancer and the adjacent dancer. They won't know the difference, right? And your dancers, I think, when they're learning, should at least have a basic concept of the definitions of the call when you teach them.
Okay, I'm going to be I can't say the word I wanted to say. I want to be very bold here. I went through lessons twice. I think there was one call where people in my little group kept saying something. What was the call? Half by the left and something's by the right, blah, blah. You know what I'm talking about. I don't remember any definitions. And you want to turn your lessons from 6 months to 12 months or from 9 months to 18 months? Require your students to learn all the definitions by the time they get through Plus. Guys, I was taught by one of the best callers in America, in my opinion, Jack Platties. I don't remember him teaching me any definitions. He walked us through it. We did all that, but I don't remember. See, I don't remember. I couldn't recite it.
Microphone.
Which leads me back to my question, Bill Boyd again, which leads me back to my question. If you don't know the definition, how are you going to teach me spin the top? If you don't know the definition, how are you going to teach me relay the deuce?
I don't teach spin the top. Oh.
But you just said that people talk.
No. Okay, Sharon addressed that.
Well, thanks. Boy, he knows. Now he hands me the mic, right? Okay. No. I have my mic. I have my own mic, you know. Of course, he won't let me turn it on very often, but my 2 mics. Yes, there's 2 mics. Okay. They know who I am. Anyway, what was the question now?
Do we have dancers
okay.
teaching
No.
definitions?
And
no.
No, because We at first, as I said, this has been tweaked, and I'm sure there'll be comments from those that do the beta tests and stuff, and we'll tweak more, because that's what you do when you make change, right? And you better things, we hope. But on the definitions, we did have sheets for the readers to go to, so they read the definition to the dancers, and then they did it. That got very sterile, and the dancers were like, could we just, do it? And so what they do, if they don't know it, if the dancer does not know it enough to explain it, which, as I said, most dancers really don't. They could dance it great, but they don't, because they didn't learn definitions either. They can look at the video where I am calling it and I am defining it, and they can watch it as the caller defines it. They repeat it to themselves. Then we have a bunch of repetitive exercises for each call. I mean, it might be right and left through, you're home. But they've just watched right and left through on the video, and they're going to do that back and forth till they've got that call. Then they go on. It's not rocket science, but it's or if they really feel uneasy and the sequence just isn't working for them, they come and get myself or the other caller, Jim Cox, to come up and do it with the group. And of course, what do? We start ad-libbing then, which a caller's going to do, right? You're just going to call it a bunch of ways till they get to practice it. That's what the repetitive exercises help with. It's a big problem. Our readers that started, when we started, were very uneasy about doing this. They are wonderful now. All right? They are, because they've gotten their confidence up. They're learning the definitions better. It's a plus for the narrators. It was a plus for myself and Jim Cox. We were writing this curriculum. We were having to come up with sequences. We were having to dance them. It strengthens and broadens your mind as a caller.
Michael Malton-Fort from Chicago. My question was more the mechanics of who decides where everyone goes at the beginning, and how often during an evening does that shuffle to decide who she's calling to, Sharon is calling to?
If I don't know the answer to that question, who should be dancing with who, I look to Sharon to say who should be paired up, because she has a grasp on that. So we have a floor coordinator, which I function as, and then if I don't know, and she can override me.
Does it change during the evening, and how often?
Yes, it changed. We probably go for 15 minutes. We take a break. We say, okay, let's go have fun. Everybody jumps in full squares. We turn on the music and rock and roll, et cetera, et cetera. So, Jerry.
Let me just add something right there, though. The fact that you have multi-level dancers, when we do full squares, you know how when you have classes and you've got dancers that are good dancers mixed in with your beginners, they can learn it so much faster themselves and not get pulled through, but they can see how it's supposed to look. We have that advantage then when we do the full squares. They're all helping each other.
Okay, we have a question here.
Yeah, actually, just a comment. It's Chris Stacy. I'm from the D.C. area. And one of the things that I do besides teaching square dancing is I also teach swing dancing, jitterbug. It's a partner dance. And I didn't know anything about this nest thing when I walked in here. And, of course, there's lots, as you've identified, there's all kinds of issues and tweaks and whatever and things. So there's a lot of things to think about. But one thing I can resonate with is that's very successful is the way that people teach a different kind of dancing, which is a partner dancing. And in terms of allocation of resources and that sort of thing, a very typical format for that involves people come in, and in this case they're naturally divvied up into couples, so you don't have to arrange them, but you can see how you would track them and put them with their groups. And so you have small groups of people, and typically you'll have an instructor who's the main instructor, and an assistant who in many cases is fully qualified to be the real instructor too. And what you'll do is you'll go around you'll put the music on, everybody will do their thing that you showed them that we're going to work on now. But then you'll go around individually to the different couples and work with them and see what this is very similar to that, and that's a very effective thing. People coming into that are not put off by the fact that we're not putting on a piece of music, everybody do the same thing all night, now we're dancing. The idea of we're going to come in here and we're going to work in little groups and somebody will come around and help you is a technique that works very well at least in other kinds of dancing. And so I can resonate with the idea of taking some of those kind of ideas and bringing it into square dancing.
Okay, here's what I'd like to do. Dale, I know you have a lot more stuff to talk about yet, correct?
This is really important what I got here in my hand, but go ahead.
And we have about 30 minutes left, so I just want to make sure that you're staying on track, that you're able, because I know there's lots of questions, but I want you to be able to cover
Okay, I need to be mean to the people, and Jerry Helt, that includes you. I need to get to this, okay? After this, let me entertain some more questions, please, if you'll provide me that grace. I want everybody to take this piece out, okay? I don't want to go through this. We're not going to get to do with this piece what I want to do. You kind of have an idea of what we do and how we do it, a general idea. That was one of our objectives. The other objective is to convince you that this system has advantages over every other system. And I'm not trying to put other systems down. I wish they work, and some of them do work very well. The traditional is the least effective when you add up all the scores. But let's go down through this. Oh, I'm sorry. Features and benefits. Features or benefits. Thank you, Kent. Okay. Let's evaluate the different systems. A student can learn at his or her own pace. A student can learn at his or her own pace. You can do that at the Nest. We have a lady, her name is...
There's no more of these up here. I waited till you got all the way up to tell you that. But
Danielle. Danielle has wanted to square dance for 20 years because her parents have been square dancing. She works for Federal Express, okay? Federal Express every year in December and January, or November and December rather, have overtime at the yin yang, and so she has to drop out. And she can never learn how to square dance. This year, she started, I think, in maybe August. She went up through November. She said, Dale, I'm going to have to drop out for a couple months because I got to go do overtime at Federal Express. She came back in January and picked up where she left off, okay? She's able to go at her own pace. We have people that have been trying to do courtesy turns for 3 weeks, okay? You've seen them, but they're not holding the rest of our students back. That is a real key factor, okay? Number two, I'm going to need my better glasses.
Want me to read them? Then you just talk?
he has 5 pair of glasses. One has both earpieces on it.
Number two, provides enough floor time to learn all the calls more proficiently before being graduated. We don't graduate students until they know how to do spin chain and exchange the gears, unlike other systems where you taught it, next week you graduate, and then they go break down squares for the next 4 or 5 months until they finally figure out how to do it. But then a lot of them don't go to dances because they don't want to break down the squares because they really were graduated before. Have you been there? Okay, you know what I'm talking about? Number three, a student that drops out can resume lessons anytime, wherever they left off. That's Danielle. There are more opportunities throughout the year to offer classes. Students can begin taking lessons anytime throughout the year. Guys, if there's one reason why the Nest exists, that's it. That is one line rationale for the existence of the Nest, so that we can go find people all the time instead of saying, oh, what do you do for activity? Well, I square dance. Man, I love square dance. Oh, can I square dance too? See you in September. There are more opportunities throughout the year to offer classes. That would be a misprint. That might have been the reasoning behind that. Thank you very much. That was a nice save. Students can begin taking lessons anytime throughout the year. I already read that. Number 6, effective advertising. If you don't know about advertising, this one, TMA, top of mind awareness. How many Geico commercials did you listen to last year? Effective advertising can occur the entire time lessons are being offered. We get to advertise 52 weeks out of the year. Signs. That's a whole other subject. You're going to get an email telling you about the 5 Club sign program. You need to sign up for it. Get 10 big signs in your area for 50 days. I don't have time to go into that right now. Okay, well, we teach you where to put them, complying with all of the township laws, and you put them on private property. We know all the laws, and we'll help you with all that. Did I read number 7? Since some students learn slower than others, the lessons series necessarily takes longer. My wife and I were frustrated. We wanted to go faster. We were capable of going faster. But Joe and Mary over there couldn't figure this thing out. And so the whole class had to go, okay? You can go at your own pace with our curriculum. Number 9, promotional effectiveness is maximized because advertising can be repetitive and ongoing. That was my Geico thing. Moves are taught according to CALLERLAB definitions, obviously. By the way, I think outside the box, there were 2 things that I did not take off the table. One was the calls. The second one was the definitions. Everything else was up for grabs as I laid there in bed and tried to figure this thing out. Everything. We can't affect square dancing, but we can change the way it's being processed and taught. Number 11, it might require additional teaching space or audio and video equipment. That is the one area where we have a disadvantage at the Nest. And you might not be able to do the curriculum at the Nest because your facility is too small. But there's hallways, there's kitchens, there's classrooms around the corner. There's the lobby area where these little mini squares can go, okay? Number 12, it is as fun as traditional class lessons. Guys, I think multi-cycle is, I think ABC is, I think traditional lessons are, I think the Blast is. The Nest is not quite as fun, but thank you, Ken, for your comment there earlier. Turn the page. Number 14, the complete CALLERLAB curriculum can be taught in fewer lessons. Let me tell you, I love Four Ladies Chain, but I got sick of doing it. So many, right and left grand, there's so much wasted time getting us back to home with all the right and left and weave the rings. And I know I'm stepping on some toes here, but guys, we've got to change the system or we're going to continue to do what we've always done, blah, 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 blah. Number 15, teachers the entire CALLERLAB curriculum, obviously, gets dancers dancing sooner than traditional approach. We get people out to it just goes faster. Let me just tell you, the angels that work with us, one of the main things that they say is you learn faster at the Nest than you do in traditional classes because we're more like drills and football practice than we are the game itself because we're wanting to get those students out there dancing as quickly as possible. Number 17, there is an arbitrary deadline for graduation. With us, there's not. They don't graduate till they know how to dance. Number 18, there are more opportunities to recruit new students because lessons can be repeated more frequently all the time. Okay, I want to, those that see the advantages of the Nest curriculum, raise your hand. If you see the advantages, do you see some disadvantages? Yeah, okay. There's no perfect system, guys. I'm just telling you, if you wait on the right-hand side of that paper that we just went through, if you'll take the time to weight the answers, meaning how important is this particular subject as it relates to the growth of square dancing, put an 8 down there, put a 2 down there, put a 9 down there, and then you multiply them by the numbers at the bottom, by the red numbers, which are the positives. The blacks are the negatives. The reds are the positive. You multiply them out, the Nest blows everything away. Do you know what the one that scores the lowest? Traditional, by far. By far. Okay, I want to entertain some questions, but I need to give Sharon time to explain this. Let's entertain a few questions, and then we'll explain what that thing over there is. I knocked Jerry out a while ago. Let's take Jerry first.
Jerry Helt from Cincinnati, Ohio. We're from the same area. I'm curious as to what the size of the group is and what your retention of the group is. Tell us how many attend this on an average.
Between 300 and 350. Just kidding. Jerry, we have not focused on numbers at all. I have done very little advertising. I know that when you put out signs, and you can do this year-round, you're going to have people calling almost every week and adding new. So that has not been my concern at all. If you need numbers before you jump on board, that's fine. We're going to provide you plenty of numbers. You can't imagine that I'm going to do all this and not provide you with some numbers. So to answer your question specifically, I think right now we have 12 to 14 students. Now we've lost some because they went out and started dancing. Okay, we lost 2 because they went back to Cleveland. Why wouldn't anybody go back to Cleveland? Just kidding. So we're down a little bit, but I'm not worried about the numbers. But let me tell you this, guys. Let me tell you this. One of my favorite clubs in Cincinnati is Frontier Squares. They have 6 squares at their lessons. At their lesson night, they have another night of dancing. 6 squares last Tuesday night. I was there angeling. You know how many new students they had? 3. 3 brand new students. That represents going downhill, not uphill. Now, is that a valid experience? Absolutely. All those 6 squares are getting good floor time. Are they growing as a club based on those numbers? Absolutely not.
Chuck Hicks, High Point, North Carolina. What's the average time to get through Plus?
For us? Well, we don't have much experience, but I would say probably, what would you say, Sharon, 6 to 7 months maybe to get through Plus?
Right. The first group that came to us, they drove almost 40 miles to come to the Nest, and they have now gone out and joined Plus clubs, and we're getting good feedback from them. Just like any new dancer, when they go out, their tempo, they're not as quick as they need to be. They're still processing. That's the biggest downfall, but they're getting through it much quicker now than even some of my traditional classes have. But yeah, I'd say that's about 6 to 7 months. We haven't had nobody go from total basic all the way through Plus yet. But all the ones that we've had and that got started have remained.
Let me say this, if you missed it. We are not a club. We are a school. I don't think that a school system is going to work necessarily unless you have somebody really strong pushing it. We are designing this for it to be assimilated, integrated, I should say, into the club lesson system, okay?
Arlene Kaspic from Carpentersville, Illinois. Okay, I got what you were doing with, dividing people by ability level so that you can teach quicker. I thought I heard you say that at some point in the evening you get everybody into full squares and have some fun. So when you do that, does it happen all at one time, or does it happen by ability group? And then do you call to just the core of common calls that they all know?
Dale's okay if I do that one?
You are, absolutely.
I wish we had more narrators, okay? And if you don't have anybody, like the club that I just started does not have but maybe 2 dancers that I would trust to try to give anybody instruction, okay? Because they're all new themselves. But that's a separate club. In your whole area, and you're hoping, your own club has enough individuals that can do the definitions and can instruct. If we got enough people with enough experience to teach the calls as they're going, we would be bulging at the seams and have a bunch of full squares a night. What I would like to see is the basic group, anybody that's in any of the basic pages of this, whatever in basic, okay, they would have 10 minutes at the beginning. I would teach some full square calls. Alaman left, right and left grand, make a right-hand star, star promenade, okay? Don't paint up this bottom when it's not right. And then after their 10 minutes, they go to mini squares. I bring in a mainstream group. Then I bring in a plus group, okay? Then after they're all back out, I bring the basic back in, and we work the calls on the sticks and on their charts that they've been instructed in that night.
With music?
Yes. The full squares all have music. We got to get some styling and some tempo in there somewhere. And that's where I try to incorporate that and taking a step for each beat. You can't take a step for each beat when you're just reading it. There's no music. And then that would repeat, okay? We'd go through and I would do all the calls in each level that they had been instructed with. And it won't be all of them they had because there's different levels of people.
I can remember the night I sat up in bed and I thought of this. I called Sharon the next morning. I thought, Sharon, I got it. You can't remember who knows what. I got it figured out for you. So she's going, these are called sticks, and each student has their own stick.
Why does that always sound like I didn't know what I was doing before he says his comment there? I don't know. Anyway, though, the dancers all have a page with their name on it, okay? And at the end of the evening, or before that if they need to because I forget, we write down in these books the sequence number that they're on. You go to your home, and that's the number we write down. Then we would start the next line for the next sequence the next time they come in, or back up a few. And I have people that say, I want to go through that whole section again. Great. They know they need to. Let's do it, you know. So the problem was when they came to me in the full square, I didn't want to go, what number were you on? What number were you on? What number were you, you know. And then even when they told me, it didn't tell me anything. Even though I wrote the curriculum, I had to go back and look and see what they'd had up to that number. This is wonderful. And, of course, we've had a lot of comments about, you know, giving you your stick. But on these, each of the full square calls are in yellow, okay? That helps me immensely. That means if I've got 8 people and their sticks are all here, well, this poor person at the beginning doesn't have anything, so I'd have to start at 0. But let's say it was this person, and I would look and I'd say, okay, full square, they're all the way up to AC-doocy teacup chain. So if all the people's sticks had pink across the yellow full square things up to there, that's where I would start teaching full square, and I could call any of the calls under that, okay? Now, let's say we don't have, and this is where I was coming at, we don't always have enough people, okay, to make a basic square, a mainstream square, and a plus square. So we have to integrate, and that's kind of going with what you were asking. And when we integrate it, it's a nightmare for me to try to figure it out. You know, when I just got a bunch of people that just came in real fast, I'm supposed to start calling. I look at this and I say, okay, where is the lowest student? Okay, and the sticks tell me immediately. What is the lowest, or the highest rather, full square call that everybody's had in this set? I start there. Then I start teaching up. Is that a problem for a plus dancer? I don't think review is ever a problem. You know, I think the more times you do something, I don't care what your level, you've learned something new. And you get that nice feeling of helping somebody else that's learning, and they love that. Like one of our couples that had struggled a lot at the beginning. In fact, they got kicked out of a club in our area, and they came to the nest. That was their last giddy up on it, and they're really so thrilled. And she goes, oh, I got to help somebody tonight. We knew more than they did, you know, and she was really ecstatic. And I thought, this is a really neat moment, because as small as that is, you need those moments. You've got to have them. So this has been a lifesaver for me. And then any caller, Mike could come in, I can explain this to him, and he can say, okay. Way to go there, Dan. He could say, you know, okay, well, let's see. Let's start up here at teacup chain. I'm going to teach y'all teacup chain. Then I'm going to go down here, and I'm going to call some of these right in here, review them. Now, let's say that somebody breaks down. Then I teach, okay, in the full square, that call. Because mini squares and a full square look very different. You've got double the distraction, for one thing, okay? And you're doing it across here, and there's a lot more room. Probably the worst call in the books is cloverleaf in a two-couple. Because when you cloverleaf, I got a partner here, I do this. Okay? I mean, I literally just spin around. And I've got one pass through cloverleaf, pass through cloverleaf, pass through cloverleaf. And by the time you're done with doing that, you're like, what did I have to drink? So there's, again, that's some of the negatives that happen along the way with this. But the sticks really keep us focused, keep us in line, get you a one-shot look, and then we mark them as we go. So we add on their plus questions. Here, Sharon can come up here. Oh, he's already got one.
Okay, I understood from what was said earlier that you use DVDs to actually demonstrate and teach each call. How many computers do you have, and does each person with a reading sheet have a computer with a DVD?
One right now.
No, we have 4 DVD. We have 4 DVD players that are around the hall, so you can go to any location, push a button, and click on it, and bing, you can see the teach.
We only use one.
Yeah, we supply those. Now you can get them for $60 a piece at Walmart. You get them for $60 a piece at Walmart. All right, another question.
Wait a minute. Behind
I'm
you.
sorry. Go.
I'm Sharon from Thomasville, North Carolina. My question is, if you're filling these out, okay, how much time and how much effort and all to keep these up and going, and do you keep them in-house? And if you keep them in-house, then does the person pull them out as they arrive?
She has an assistant.
Yes, and this is also good because when they're done with their mini square teaches, their narrator comes over and together they mark off in pink the calls that they just did, okay? And then somebody that's not dancing with the group marks them as I'm doing full square teaches. So they're kept up to date, and it's good for the student to be able to mark it and realize they are progressing too.
What happens with Michael Maltonfort? What happens with students who are gone for 4 months and their stick isn't accurate because they've forgotten the last 8 pink calls? Do you unpink them?
Well, we've not had that problem.
I'm working on that invention. No, we don't unpink them. We just back them up in the curriculum and keep them going. So, wide them out. There you go. Question back here.
Dora Olson, Kalamazoo, Michigan. Do you school your narrators or your readers? How and when do you do that? Of course, before they start, I presume.
We did have a workshop, and we did work with them on it, and that's when we gave them those definitions and such. And we found out those definitions weren't really good. They didn't really read what we had on there. They made it up their own way anyway. So it was better, I felt, for them to say, let's go over and look at this. And you can have one station with a DVD, really, and, go over and look at it. They see it. Then the instructor, narrator can turn away, and they can do it. Then if they're having trouble, they know, get a hold of one of the callers immediately. Do not try to just fake it.
Are the CDs going to be available for us to purchase? I'm assuming the teach ones.
They will ultimately be available, as I said earlier. I'm looking for 10 or 15 clubs where we can start accumulating some data. We're going to have a weekly teleconference between those club leaders or those callers. How's it going? We want to make sure that the Nest is a successful program before we throw it out to the general public. We have CDs for the audibles. Besides the narrator curriculum, we have a complete audible system where experienced dancers can go over and push a button and get some memory muscle. They don't have to talk to anybody. They just go push a button and dance the sequences. So we have the CDs, we have the DVDs, we have, as you can see, the curriculum that's being passed around. We want to do that whole kit and caboodle for $75 is what our goal is. We're not trying to make a mint on this. There's no money in square dancing, but I started out that, no, I'm just kidding. So we've asked different people. They think a CD and a DVD and all the curriculum for $75 we think is reasonable. I don't know what you think. If not, we'll give it to you cheaper.
I got an idea for cheaper for you. Use a laptop, Harry Morgan, Greensboro, North Carolina. Use a laptop, Contaminations will give you everything you need to to go through the calls, and it'll give you the definitions.
We also tell them to look up on Saddlebrooks. You know, before our videos, we're ready to look there. And a lot of our dancers, before they come, review by looking at that, or Saddlebrook Squares. Some of them bought their CDs, others just watch online.
Here's one of the things that we want to do with our videos is you can go on, as a caller, you can go online, click the 3 calls or 4 calls or 2 calls, whatever you're going to do that coming week, and those videos will drop into the inbox of your students, and they can review those teachers and those videos before they ever come to class. Guys, there is so much stuff that can be done with new technology, and let me say this. All the gadgets and the technology that took people away from the dance clubs, we're going to use that same technology to bring them back to the dance clubs, okay? I know how to do that kind of stuff. This demographic, a little shaky, okay? So we're going to pablum feed you on how to do, let's everybody say Twitter. No, I'm kidding, okay? There are all kinds of ways that we can do this, and we're going to do it. We will not be deterred. We will not be deterred. We're going to save this activity. More questions? How much time we got? Zip. 5 minutes. Any other questions? Wow. Okay.
Harry Morgan, Greensboro. You had 24 people up here to do this demonstration. If a couple walks into my club on Monday night and they want to take lessons, they're going to get lessons. We're not going to wait till October, November, September. We're going to give them lessons as soon as they come through that door. And I'm personally going to teach those lessons because the club will sit back and wait for me to teach those lessons.
No, that is a utopian scenario right there. Congratulations. We had a question back here. Your name first.
Mike Gormley, Sebring, Florida. The rack system that you have up there, where you're saying basically that represents 1 square. Is that correct? Yes. And the 8 dancers in the square. Yes. And you look for the least common denominator of calls. And the calls, it looked like on the stick, the first calls were at the bottom of the line. So you look for wherever all the shading stops, and that's as high as you're going to go when you call that tip. Is that correct?
She uses that for teachers. Okay. So, yep. Again, she uses the sticks to know where she should be doing a teach, because there's a student that's in that square that's never had reverse flutter wheel, and so all the rest of the students, or maybe 6 of the 8, have had it. The 2 haven't. They're going to be taught reverse flutter wheel.
Barry Miller, Denver, Colorado. Not a question, but a comment. Denver would be glad to somehow put this together to be one of the trial groups, so put us on board.
How many here would like to be considered as a beta test site?
Wow,
that's wonderful. Okay, come and see me afterwards if you would, please, okay?
All right. Another question? Yes. We're about out of time, but we'll take 1 or 2 more.
Walter Bro, Birmingham, Alabama. What about the paperwork involved? It sounds like there's a lot of record keeping. No? Tell us about it.
Not really, because the narrator and the student does the sticks and the form where they put the last number they were on. That's their responsibility, and they know that. After the first week, I didn't have to tell them. They'd get their number, and they'd come up, and where's the sheet? I put it on, Sharon. They're well-trained, they can do that, and they immediately get their sticks, bring them over. It's just really not been a lot of record keeping. He had about a 3-pager at the beginning, a lot of their how'd you hear about, those kinds of things on it. It was too much. They just want to give you their name, their phone number, their email address, and let me go. Let me dance, right. So, yeah, we'll get your names and emails and stuff for the test group.
Yeah, again, my name is Dale Bennett from the Nest, and my phone number is area code 513-847-1300. That's for those people that are listening to this a year and a half from now. Here's another question.
Kent Forrester, Silver Spring, Maryland. How do you charge for it? Per night?
That's entirely How you charge for it is entirely up to you. You charge the way you charge for any lessons. We're in a facility that we don't pay for. We're in a mall that's kind of, and we have our space free. We're not allowed to charge. We tell them typical lessons cost $5. Maybe you can let that conscience be your guide. Everybody throws in $5. So just be honest with you. But we can't charge, and so.
Okay.
Okay, if you can't charge, does the caller then donate his or her time?
Well, charge.
Okay.
Charge, guys. I mean, it's not. Do you charge where your regular lessons? Then you charge here.
Sure.
I mean, that's
All
not.
right.
There's
All
nothing
right.
different about
Ladies and gentlemen, we are out of time.
I just want to comment on that. Let me tell you, I have a caller-run club. I have not made a dime since I've been calling. I'll call 2 people at any time, anywhere, any place. I think one of the problems that we get into is callers want to make money and don't help the clubs because the clubs are running out of money and they have to pay a caller for lessons. If we're going to save it for ourselves, we need to help the clubs.
All right, guys, please give Dale and Sharon a nice hand. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Have a good day. We now have a coffee session, so if you can break for 15 minutes, the next session starts at 2:30.